Welcome to another episode of the Bleeding Edge of Digital Health. As we all know, as of late, there's been a lot of activity in the personalized medicine markets, but also in that of neurodegenerative diseases, ALS, Parkinson's, MS, to name a few. The technology we're going to be featuring today is actually a crossover of those two. The company is Octave Biosciences, and they've developed the first and only diagnostic blood biomarker that was specifically designed to measure disease activity in MS patients. So, with no further ado, I'd like to introduce today's guest, my friend and CEO of Octave Biosciences, Doug Bean. Doug, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike, for having me and let me share the Octave story with you and your subscribers.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we just start off by tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then obviously a little bit about the company.
Yeah, great. My name is Doug Bean. I'm the CEO of Octave Bioscience. My career has been really focused on really bringing innovative and transformative healthcare technology to market to become standard of care. Past experience is with a company called iRhythm, AliveCore. Even I did a 9-year stint at Blue Shield of California as chief marketing officer. So I've held various commercial leadership roles and in scaling and growing companies. As I started here at Octave about a year and a half or so ago, Octave is a pioneer in creating precision medicine solutions, really focused on neurodegenerative diseases, everything from MS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all the big neurodegenerative diseases that really drive a lot of drug development, drive a lot of and impact a lot of patients, and drive a lot of cost across the system.
Yeah, we've talked about this several times in the past, but there's been such an incredible amount of time, money, energy that's been put into managing oncology, and now I feel like it's these neurodegenerative diseases. I feel like it's their time, and it's neat to see so much activity and so many incredible technologies being developed in this space. So excited to dive into this with you. As we know, with these neurodegenerative diseases, and that's tough to say, but as we know, that there are so many issues with these patients, and the patient, from the patient side and the provider side. Tell us a little bit about the problems you guys are specifically trying to address.
Yeah, I'll answer that in two ways. So to your other comment, you know, I would say one could think of neurodegenerative diseases today like oncology or cancer 20 years ago. Fast forward today, think about all of the advancement in medical technology for screening, early detection, therapy selection, therapy optimization over time in oncology, and how that has advanced the field and has really had a profound impact on patient care. That's what's happening now in neurodegenerative diseases. Like cancer, you have heterogeneous patient populations with growing numbers of therapies to choose from. You have a set of chronic conditions that are not curable, that need ongoing optimization of therapy over time. And you have a tremendous amount of cost currently in the system. Take MS alone, which is the largest neurodegenerative disease among young adults, impacting mostly women in their prime, 20 to 40. In the US alone, there are about 1 million MS patients, driving about $85 billion of economic burden per year. So not only is it clinically acute, it's economically acute. And so precision medicine, the notion of biology is the closest thing to the truth, is really enabling earlier detection of these diseases to get the patient on the right therapy at the right time and monitoring that patient over time as that disease changes. So you could proactively improve the therapy or change the therapy to improve the quality of life for that patient over time. It's a profound change in the standard of care. And we're seeing its direct impact already in our work in the MS field.
I've heard you talk in the past about you've referenced medicine 3.0. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's really important for the audience to understand. This kind of leads into the next question about what the how are these patients currently being managed? Like, it's everything seems to be just so reactive and whatnot. And you said it so eloquently in the past about getting into this medicine 3.0. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dr. Peter Attia's book called Outlive, and the basic premise of that book is acknowledging that across the US, especially, we are in a medicine 2.0 environment where our healthcare system really is focused on treating symptoms. And the desired outcome is to get to medicine 3.0, where you're actually affecting the underlying conditions and avoiding those symptoms to live a longer and healthier life. And I think to your question around the current standard of care, and this is not a flip statement, this is what you will hear from physicians, neurologists today practicing medicine within MS, for example, use the term trial and error.
Yeah.
So you have a chronic disabling disease. There is no quantifiable way to measure your disease, activity, or progression to give a physician quantitative, objective data to proactively manage your disease. So here you are in a state where you're in kind of this diagnostic odyssey. Do I have MS? Do I not? And so the standard of care today in MS is let's wait for symptoms to present. And symptoms are meaningful, right? You could have a symptom that affects your gait where you can't walk like you used to. You can't see like you used to, among other disabling symptoms. And so let's wait for a symptom and then let's look at what the patient says the symptom is, which is not always the truth, right? You could have pseudo symptoms. Or let's put a patient into an MRI, which is very costly, hard to access, not timely, which is a picture of the past. What has already happened?
It's too late.
It's too late. And if you look at the evidence, it's very clear. If you could get a patient diagnosed early and on the right therapy and keep them on the right therapy over time, the disability accumulation over time is much lower than those that you don't diagnose early and get on the right therapy. It's too late. You don't get the walking back. You don't get the vision back. It's too late.
Yeah.
So the current tools doctors are using are all retrospective, subjective. With precision medicine and with Octave's MS disease activity test, it is the world's only and first clinically validated multi-analyte biomarker test. It uses 18 blood-based protein biomarkers with an AI application that sits on top of that, that creates a very clear report for the physician that's clinically actionable, that allows them to make sure proactively before a symptom were to happen, should I keep this patient on the current therapy because it's working? Should I switch the therapy because guess what? The therapy is not actually working, and I could see that in the data. Or should I discontinue this patient on a therapy because it's not working, they don't need it? Our technology, our AI enables proactive clinical decision making. It's an immense change to medical management. It is 3.0 today.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how the workflow works. What, patient goes in, they go in every 6 months to get a blood test. How quickly after that do they get their results?
Oh, once we receive a sample, we could turn it around in 3 days. We
Wow.
basically tell a physician, a 7-day turnaround time for a report. And if you look at through the lens of a physician, as we all know in healthcare, if you add a click to the clinical workflow, physicians will likely not adopt. The beautiful thing about blood tests, it's a simple clinical order. Patient gets a simple blood draw, we receive it. We run that sample in our CLIA CAP certified lab, now recently New York State certified. We apply our AI platform on top of that, and we produce a report right back in their workflow, and they're able to interpret that data, share it with their patient. And let's not forget the patient in this equation, right? You're an MS patient today, you have no idea what's going on inside your body. You're basically waiting for something to happen,
Yeah.
right? And so now with this data in hand, you could have individualized data that says, just like A1C for diabetes, I have a score. I know if I'm stable and my disease activity is low, or I know quantitatively that my disease activity is high and I have to make a change to my care plan. It's empowering. It
Yeah.
takes the mystery away from patients. It gives them data to take proactive decisions, to have better outcomes, more peace of mind, more control.
I can't imagine being an MS patient and not having something like this and walking around. I mean, we're all, with Google MD and, I mean, we're all internet doctors at this point now. If I had MS and I was walking around and didn't know exactly where my disease state was at, every time you feel a twinge here or a numbing sensation there, it's got to be maddening. I mean, it could
Yeah.
drive a person insane just not knowing, is this the other shoe dropping with my disease, or is this just something completely unrelated? So yeah, I could imagine that being extremely empowering for the patients for sure. Tell us a little bit. You mentioned the AI algorithm, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. Is tell us a little bit about how you guys are using modern technology, specifically AI, to solve these problems that maybe weren't, where a solution like this wasn't capable 5 years ago, just because the technology wasn't there.
Yeah, I would say what makes Octave special, what our kind of core competitive advantages are really three things. First, it's our proprietary methodology in characterizing disease. This methodology was published in Nature Communications last year in 2024. And we use all kinds of modern technology to cast the net wide. We look at thousands of different proteins. We look at other modalities such as imaging. We engage with obviously KOLs across the world, deeply phenotyped samples across the world. So we are integrating a ton of data, and we use AI to help really accelerate that process and get to those core insights. That's kind of the first pillar of our core competitive advantage. The second pillar is imagine giving a physician 18 biomarkers. What are they going to do with that?
Right.
It's not clinically actionable. How do I interpret this? How do I change my medical management decisions? So, in order to make it easy to integrate into their clinical decision making, we've used AI to create a very simple index, a disease activity score. As I mentioned earlier, very similar to your A1C. But the disease activity score gives them something that's clinically actionable. If it's low, the patient is stable, stay the course. If it's high, the patient's disease activity is out of control, predicting something in the future to happen. It's time to change course. And then 3 months later, let's do another test and let's make sure that my change, right, is having the right effect. Stay the course. That's kind of number two, taking data and making it clinically actionable with the use of AI. The third component is oftentimes this technology innovation is locked up in the lab. It doesn't get translated into standard of care in clinic, paid for by payers, et cetera. The third thing that we've proven is that we can not only develop this proprietary technology through our different approaches, but we could bring this into the marketplace, change the standard of care across provider adoption and getting paid for it by payers, and integrating this in pharma discovery and go to market to accelerate drugs to market. I think that also is a big component of how we use technology, not only how we leverage the data into changing mindsets and behaviors, but also as we scale our business, our lab operations leverage robotics, which includes tons of AI in doing this at scale. And so, I mean, it's the whole gamut of advanced analytics that really differentiate the company. And we're doing that in MS, and we'll do that across Parkinson's, and we'll do that across Alzheimer's, across neurodegenerative diseases to really fulfill our full mission vision.
It's great. The interesting thing is you have all this going on in the background, and yet you can dumb that down to just a score that the physician can act is it's an actionable item for the physician, but also I'm guessing, does the patient have access to this information too, so that they can go into the platform and say, oh, okay, yeah, here's where I was at 6 months ago, here's where I'm at now. Do they have access to that platform as well?
Absolutely. Today, the workflow is simple. We get that report back in the hands of the provider first. He or she will work with the patient to educate them on their current, disease and what the right course of action is. And what we hear all the time, in addition to the empowerment feedback you and I discussed earlier, this is now becomes a shared decision-making phenomena. It's not uncommon for a patient to go into a doctor and say, Doctor, I have symptoms. And the doctor says, nah, I think those are pseudo. Don't worry about it. Come back to me in 6 months. Come back to me in 18 months.
We've
Right?
all dealt with that.
We've
Yeah.
all dealt with that. That happens. That's a true
We
statement.
know our bodies better than the physicians do.
Yeah. But now, right, you have objective, quantitative data that the doctor and the patient both can now evaluate and make the most informed decision. What's best for that patient, which then creates the peace of mind and the sense of empowerment. Happens
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. I can only imagine. The technology is, as I was doing research on this, I really started thinking it through. And this seems like a trifecta technology. And what I mean by that is very seldom do you see devices, any type of software as a medical device, any technology where everybody wins. The patient wins, the physician wins,
Mm.
the payers win. And that's, I think, honestly, I mean, the patient impact here is so incredible. I think the trifecta component of this is what got me the most excited about it, because when you have those type of technologies, those are the type of technologies that go viral in the
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
and that means that you're really going to be able to have some incredible patient impact. So I can only imagine how rewarding that is for you and for the team. But talk a little bit about the impact this has on those three stakeholders.
It's a great comment. I'm going to add to that a fourth dimension in a moment. So, we've talked a lot about how it really empowers a physician to make more proactive decisions based on objective, quantifiable data. That's biology. It also empowers patients to be part of the decision making and have greater peace of mind and control. We've talked about that. I think what often happens in the world of specialty diagnostics or precision medicine is the payer could be the biggest gatekeeper to adoption. And if you look at it through the lens of a payer, a health plan, in fact, MS is one of the top three, if not top five, most expensive patient populations in their book of business.
Yeah, I think I saw the lifetime cost of a patient is north of 4 million.
Oh, yeah. It costs on average a payer $65,000 a year per MS member per year. And they don't have a solution, right? We've talked about the MRI. We know health plans don't give easy access to MRIs. They're expensive, they're costly, they're not so healthy to do repetitively, et cetera.
Break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah. But so health plans' response to this is wow, now we could finally arm our network providers with actionable data that ensures the right member is on the right therapy at the right time. There's some really interesting data out there that's been published around drug waste, right? So you try a drug, you have side effects that you can't tolerate, or you don't comply because you don't know if it's working or not, or whatever. There's a lot of reasons why there's such a significant amount of drug waste. Well, now with our technology, we know if the drug is working or not.
Yeah,
Give the patient,
we've got an image I want to pull up.
uh,
Yeah, tell us a little bit about this image that you've got. This, I was blown away when you shared this with me. This is unreal.
yeah, and this is real. This is not a marketing ploy. This is in fact a physician that published a study on drug waste in MS. And the image that you're pulling up is of one physician among one patient panel in 1 year. Basically, in the study, you can see it on PubMed. the physician basically collected unused disease-modifying therapies from MS patients in 1 year to really prove that there's such a significant amount of waste in MS today that accretes to the $85 billion economic burden that I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And it really points to the fact that we don't have the right tools to make the right therapy selections, to determine that our therapy selections are actually working and continue to optimize those over the life of the patients. Therein lies a huge inefficiency in our current standard of care, costing the system way more than it needs to.
Yeah, one thing that I think that this speaks to is just how much or how often these patients are switching medications. Like the need for this type of a therapy. It's not like they might that their efficiency score or their disease score might change once every 3 years.
Yeah.
It could change. It's obvious now just looking at that waste that this could change often, and so to be able to manage that on an ongoing basis, it just underscores the value of what you guys are doing.
Let me add the fourth dimension. So you said the trifecta. Yes, the
Mm-hmm.
provider wins, the patient wins, the payer wins, pharma wins. So think
Right.
about this from pharma perspective, right? They spend billions of dollars to hopefully get a drug to market, right? It takes a long time, it's a lot of cost, lots of risk, right? With the use of multi-analytic biomarkers, right? Biology, you could actually accelerate that drug discovery process and de-risk it along the way by using biomarkers to identify who's responding, who's not, to improve better patient selection, right?
You
You
don't have to take a study all the way through the process if it's
Exactly.
not working.
No, you could use the technology to identify the efficacy of the asset earlier. Think about that as you identify an asset and you get it through all the different phases and you go to market. You can now also use the data to quantify the efficacy of the drug in the market. You could identify in clinic whether this patient is likely to respond or not, and are they responding to the therapy quicker, better outcomes, better cost for everybody. So I think it's a four-way win ecosystem. Everybody wins by leveraging the latest technology, such as what Octave delivers in neurodegenerative diseases.
Yeah, that's great. I'd love to see that. These technologies, I don't know that people really understand for every one that makes it to market from a pharmaceutical perspective, how many don't. And a lot of those go deep into the clinical process.
Yep.
It's costly, it's time consuming. If we could get these products to market quicker, everybody wins again.
Yeah.
So
Let me let
it's
me let me jump on that. So, we haven't spoken about this. We've been spending a lot of our time on MS, which has about 25 or so disease modifying therapies that a physician could select. So obviously this helps with therapy selection and optimization. But now let's take Parkinson's. So we've partnered with Michael J. Fox Foundation for the last almost 2 years, and we are about a year away from launching the world's first Parkinson's multi-biomarker test. And what's interesting about that patient population is there really aren't any disease modifying therapies on market today. However, over the next 2 to 5 years, this entire market is going to change because there's over 60 drugs right now in development. So we're developing an asset that's going to help these pharma companies accelerate and de-risk those assets and get them to market in the hands of doctors to affect patient care faster and more precisely. So that's also how the technology is being used.
that's incredible. It's exciting stuff. With all this, there's such an overwhelming amount of evidence and justification and validation for the technology. I know you guys are having an immense amount of commercial success. I think you guys, what, in 1 year you got what was it, 20% of the total MS lives covered. I've never heard of that. That's absolutely unheard of. So congratulations on that. But then that's coming from an old commercial hack who understands the game, as they say.
You were right.
But what what challenges are you guys facing? What driving mass adoption and utilization is never easy. What challenges are you guys facing?
Well, I mean, I think change in healthcare takes a minute. I think everybody who's trying to introduce a novel technology or service has to recognize that physician burnout is real, right? Physicians are being asked to do more with less every single day, and it's harder and harder to get their attention, get them to um, um, learn something new that they weren't trained in school and adopt quickly at scale. So that's always a headwind. The way we combat that challenge is we are huge believers in evidence generation. We have generated over 120 now different posters and abstracts and manuscripts to really demonstrate empirically the power of this technology. And I think that's been really helping us educate physicians because physicians will say, yeah, biomarkers make sense. But the next question is what I do with them. So the evidence that we're generating is not only validating the technology is accurate and it's safe, but also we're publishing a lot of evidence on how this technology is being effectively used across multiple clinical use cases to give physicians very specific case studies or use cases to adopt in clinic. That's been very helpful. Payers, despite our, I would say, extraordinary traction in getting, in-network contracts, now we're about a third of the population today. So we continue to drive traction there. It is a hand-to-hand combat dynamic in getting paid, right? So, the appeals process and the education process and getting your codes hard coded in their systems, all that stuff takes time and also underscores the inefficiencies in the system. But we're making great progress there. Um, and so I would say those are kind of our biggest challenges and kind of how we're overcoming those.
Yeah. Well, it's never, as you mentioned, it's never easy, but the fight is always a worthwhile one for sure. What you guys you touched on it a little bit with the Parkinson's piece.
Yeah.
This to me seems like a no-brainer platform technology. I know you guys have some other disease states coming. Can
Yeah.
you tell a little bit? I don't know what you can share there, but can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, our mission is to set a whole new standard of care across neurodegenerative diseases. And we've chosen to focus establishing kind of our foundation in MS. I've already mentioned our partnership with Michael J. Fox Foundation, and we're about a year away from um, uh, introducing a new product in Parkinson's. Our pipeline right now gets us to a point where by 2027, we'll be the first multi-product, multi-indication precision neuro platform in the market with a really strong foundation of probably by that time, thousands of physicians using with significant payer coverage, which I think creates a really strong moat and infrastructure for continuing to scale. The next horizon for us will be Alzheimer's. That's a large market. I would say it's also like Parkinson's has a tremendous pipeline of about 70 different drugs coming to market or trying to come to market. Um, and it's also a heterogeneous neurodegenerative market that will embrace precision medicine, such as our technology. That's also on our horizons. So I think MS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's for Octave are going to be the priorities over the next 3 to 5 years. And then as we amass more and more data, there'll be more and more incredible things we could do with that to impact the field and patient care in neurodegenerative diseases.
Yeah, and the data that you accumulate there isn't just going to benefit those patient sets. That's data that can be used to your point across the entire spectrum,
Yep.
new pharmaceutical and biotech creation. So that the impact is not just in direct impact. There is going to be a tremendous aftershock as a result of what you guys are doing. So
Absolutely.
kudos to you. This is an incredible technology, man. When I first saw that you took the role over there, I was really excited for you and appreciate you taking the time to come on the show, talk about it a little bit, share this with my audience, and we'll be rooting for you guys from the sidelines for sure.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
That's it for this edition of the Bleeding Edge of Digital Health. We'll catch you on the next episode.